1914 to 1915. Illusions and statements. Before 1914, many political leaders believed war to be impartial because it involved so many political and economic risks, while others thought diplomats could prevent it. In August, both ideas were shattered. Government propaganda. Ideas spread to influence public opinion for or against a cause. By August 1914, the pleas of European governments for defense against aggressors fell on receptive ears in every nation in war. At the same moment, a new set of illusions fed the enthusiasm for war. Everyone believed that war would be over in few of weeks. Also, the jubilant citizens and soldiers who boarded trains believed they would be back for Christmas. Western Front. German hopes for a quick end to the war rest on a military gamble. The Schlieffen Plan called for German army to make a vast movement through Belgium in northern France. According to the plan, German forces would be whipped around Paris, causing them to surround most of French army.
The Eastern Front. The war on the Eastern Front was marked by mobility. By the moment the Russian army had moved into the eastern Germany, but was decisively defeated at the Battle of Tampere on August 30 and the Battle of Masurian Lakes on September 15. After these defeats, the Russians were no longer a threat to Germany. The Austrians, Germany's ally, had been defeated by the Russians and thrown out of Serbia. Also, Italians betrayed the Germans and Austrians allies in the Triple Alliance by attacking Austria in May 1915. So Italy joined France, Great Britain, and Russia, known as Triple Entente, Allied powers or allies. The Russians were almost knocked out of the war by the German-Austrian army. Encouraged by their success, Germany, Austria, and also Bulgaria attacked and eliminated Serbia from the war. Their success in the east would enable the German troops to make back to the offensive in the west.
On the Western Front, trenches dug in 1914 had, by 1916, become elaborated systems of defense. Germans and French each had hundreds of miles of trenches. These trenches were protected by barbed wire entanglements up to 5 feet. That's 1.5 meters high and 30 yards, about 27 meters wide. At times, the high command on either side would order an offensive that would begin with an artillery barrage to flatten the enemy's barbed wire and leave them in a state of shock. After softening up the enemy in this fashion, a mass of soldiers would climb out of their trenches with fixed bayonets and hope to work their way toward the enemy. The attacks rarely worked because men advanced and protected across open fields could be fired at by the enemies. By the end of 1915, airplanes appeared on the battlefront for the first time in history. They were used to spot the enemy's position, and soon they began to attack ground targets, especially their enemies' communication systems. Later, machine guns were mounted on the noses of planes, and this made the skies more dangerous. An example of these are the Zeppelins, which were giant airships that were used by Germans to bomb London and Eastern England.
Bulgaria entered the war on the side of the Central Powers, as Germany, Austria, Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire. Russia and France and Great Britain, the Allied powers, declared the war to the Ottoman Empire. In April 2015, the Allied powers attacked the southwest of Constantinople. By 1917, the war had become a world conflict. In 1918, British forces from Egypt mobilized troops from India, Australia, and New Zealand.
The entry of the United States of America. At first, they remained neutral in the war, but they involved to this war because of the naval problems between Germany and Great Britain. When Germany, on May 7, 1915, they sank the British ship Lusitania. About 1,000 civilians, including Americans, died. The naval forces of Germany told Emperor William II that no one in America would land on the continent, but they were wrong. British did not surrender because USA troops came in small number, and in 1917 and 1918 they came with the big traps, and they helped England destroy Germany.
The impact of total war. World War I involved a total war, which was a mobilization of resources and people. It affected the lives of innocent people. When the war began, no one thought it would be so long. And when the war machines failed, the task more men had to fight. Governments were also affected. The free trade policies had to wait, and European nations set up planned economies. The conditions of soldiers at war and civilians were narrowed. Manipulation of public opinion. The war conditions and environment started to affect civilians. They stopped having pride for their countries and they were tired of the war. So in response, the governments, especially for Russia and the authoritarian government, started obligating people to fight and to support their country. In the war, the police even had the power to arrest people who didn't support the war and threaten them as traitors.